Hello?
Dude, where in the world have you been?
Huh? Mossy? Is that you?
Who else do you think would call you? You literally made me. You haven't been at work for ages, the AC broke, and now we're running out of money.
Oh, my bad. I was just taking a few days off so that I probably just didn't end up keeping track of time.
I think you've taken more than just a few days off, Shark.
What do you mean? It's barely been any...
Shark, look at the date.
Easy, it's the 21st of... Oh my god. Has it really been that long?
Yes, it has. You've taken so long, the roof is starting to come down.
Alright. I get it, I'm late to the Nullscape video, but there's just no way. This video is sponsored by Opera GX. So, you know how default Roblox avatars kinda suck? Yeah, that's pretty much every default browser on the market. With Opera GX, you're able to spice up your browser and customize it however you like. And I really do mean however you like. With Opera GX's exclusive mods feature, you can turn this into this. It doesn't just end at changing my background. I can change the background music, my keyboard sounds, hell, even the splash screen when you first open the browser. You can even change the GX icon in your taskbar. But do you know what the best part is about Opera GX's customization? That you can mix and match individual mods however you like. There's plenty of really cool user-generated mods and themes on Opera GX, such as the Nostalgia Pack, which turns your browser sound effects into ones that are just like the older days of Roblox. There's also Hell's Obby, based off the Roblox game of the same name by Opera GX. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend you do. There's also some really neat features that come along for absolutely free with GX. For example, you're able to limit RAM for better gaming performance, use ChatGPT to help with your homework, and even watch Twitch just from your sidebar. Sick of all the ads that you get when not watching my videos? Skill issue! With Opera GX, you can get rid of all those annoying ads with the press of a button. Having trouble with Roblox blocking a bunch of games in your area for no reason? With Opera GX's VPN, you can access games from any location without any restrictions, all while staying completely secure from all those pesky trackers. Thank you again to Opera GX for sponsoring this video, and be sure to click the link in the description and pinned comment to download the app now. The current state of Roblox is not exactly something to be desired. Update after update, players are constantly disappointed with the stripping away of basic features, only for them to be locked behind either paywalls or flawed verification systems. In their pursuit of innovating, the only thing Roblox has really innovated on is making the platform objectively worse for many people, either because of legislation forcing them to make a terrible change, or out of their complete lack of touch with the outside world. Enjoying chat? Too bad, because this is the modern day. To even access this platform at this point, you need to scan your face and give it to shady companies just to talk with your friends that you've been doing for free for years. Having fun playing older games? Unfortunately for you, Roblox has just made a change that bans unrated experiences, meaning that majority of older games will be wiped off the platform in a short amount of time. Worse, smaller games are also in trouble due to this change, needing to hit a certain concurrent number of players to still be available to all ages on the platform, even if they follow the rules. Actual innovation and effort are being pushed to the absolute bottom, and games that refuse to change, that stick to the same 3 trends, are pushed to the top of the trend. This is not to rag on the quality of said games, because there are many popular games that are quality, but establishing a new front page game based solely on quality these days is nearly impossible. Which brings us to the topic of today's video. Despite going against practically every trend that Roblox has had for the past few years, this deceptively simple game, made originally for somebody's birthday, managed to break through it all. Nullscape is a roguelite, arcade collecting and platforming game that was released quite a while ago, but has started to pick up in popularity around January of this year. I got into the game somewhere around the end of patch 3, but I didn't really think it was too much to write home about until patch 4, the second most major update for the game. If only I knew how much I was missing out on. Roblox isn't really a stranger to roguelike and roguelite games on the platform. One More Night, Minus Elevation, and Hours are examples of relatively popular games with their own dedicated player bases that feature roguelike gameplay. However, Nullscape is an especially interesting case, as the way it handles its gameplay loop is personally more engaging compared to other games in the same genre. When you first load into the lobby after booting up the game, the first thing you'll notice about it is its unique art style and aesthetic. Everything around you seems to have this purplish blue hue, and you're surrounded by unique structures, either adding to the world building of this game or listing different things about the game. Leaderboards, global enemy kills, and the lobby system all sprawling right in front of you, creating quite an overwhelming first impression. But don't worry, that's what I'm here for. After literal months of delays, in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to play Nullscape, so that even the newest players can play just as well as rank 100s. I'll also be giving a few of my own opinions here and there, as well as giving feedback on how to improve the game at the end of the video. So, if you end up enjoying this video, consider dropping a like and subscribing to my channel. I'm trying to hit 70,000 subscribers before the end of July, and all of your support allows me to stay motivated and continue to make videos that you guys want to see. If you really want to support me further, I want special perks, such as access to uploads early as well as a shout out at the end of every single one of my videos. Feel free to join my YouTube channel membership. It's only $5 and it helps me pay for a lot of the things that you'll end up seeing in this video. If this video manages to get to 2,000 likes, I'll make more Nullscape videos just like this one. Now, without any further ado, let's just get right into it. As I previously said in the introduction, Nullscape as a game is deceptively simple on paper. When you first load into the intermission lobby and hit the start button, the first thing you'll see right in front of you are 3 enemy options, all of seemingly variable difficulty. Some may look a bit intimidating, but I promise you by the end of this video, all of these enemies will be nothing but absolute fodder to you. On level 1 and even numbers, you will be able to choose from 3 random enemies. One of these enemies must be chosen to continue to the next level. You start with 2 rerolls, with 1 reroll being replenished every 5 levels. The number of available enemies depends on different factors, such as your current level and what permanent enemies you have chosen so far. Once you have selected an enemy, the enemy you just selected will become unavailable on the next enemy selection intermission. Enemy selection always happens before any other selection type in the game, so that's important to keep in mind. During collection phase, your main objective is to mostly just survive and collect gifts. Avoid enemies, jump over gaps, use your abilities wisely, and get every single gift on the map regardless of the cost. The enemies are a massive threat in early game, due to the fact that you not only have little to no upgrades, but that they will always one-shot you, meaning that if you're not careful, you'll be sent back to the start of the game before you've even processed them attacking you. In higher levels, you'll get access to upgrades that allow you to take more hits, but for early game, you're fresh out of luck, so be extra careful. During collapse phase, collect as many golden gifts as you can when the beacon opens and make it back to the exit before the platforms collapse. To progress to the next level, at least 1 player needs to make it to the beacon. With the paycheck upgrade that you can buy at level 3, you can get money as long as half or more of the players have beaconed. I'll explain the specifics of different upgrades later, but early game it's vital that as many people beacon while collecting as many gifts as they can for the benefit of the team. The next thing you'll notice about the game is its movement. Since this is level 1 and you haven't bought any upgrades, you start the game very slow with absolutely no air control. Unless you're on casual mode, but we'll get back to that. The main thing you have to rely on early game is your selected ability. Since you're a new player, I highly recommend you play Diver, as it's the easiest to understand class and you already start with it equipped. As the Diver class, you have essentially 1 main ability, but with upgrades you can get more to improve your movement. But now you just have a basic dive forward that you can cancel by pressing space. Holding W while cancelling dive with space does a little dash that increases the amount of distance you can travel across the map. Holding S allows you to slow the speed at which you are diving at the cost of not travelling as far. This is incredibly important to avoid encountering a different mechanic in the game: bonking. Bonking happens when you travel too fast into a wall or solid object while using your ability. This usually has less than favourable results for you if it's an air bonk, usually causing you to fall into the void and die, or bonk back into an enemy at a high speed and dying upon contact with them. In the best case scenario, you just ground bonk, which moves you at a weird angle, but at least you can recover from it most of the time. However, do keep in mind that you have zero air control when bonking without any upgrades, so please watch your speed and don't hit your head while using your abilities. There are a few classes that can't bonk, but we'll get back to that later. In the first few levels, the enemy selection pool is comprised of a few enemies, ranging from completely free to being a bit of an inconvenience. These are Mart, Bell, Springer, Husk, Baby, and ICBM. Picking any of these except for Husk and Baby in the first 6 to 8 levels will basically have little to no effect on your round. Before we continue, allow me to explain what their gimmicks are so you at least know what you're getting into early game. Mart is just a little guy, practically harmless in standard and casual without any of his enemy specific curses. He sort of just slowly floats towards you, instantly killing you on contact. He can combine with other Marts to become larger and faster, but again, this is barely ever a threat unless in a larger swarm. A big problem with him, however, is that he can go through walls, and since he's so small and his sound cue is pretty quiet, he can take you by surprise. Be especially wary of his position and keep an eye on him, and you should mostly be fine. Or you'll end up being a beacon Mart victim. Do not ever get the Mart slide curse if you enjoy having fun. Bell is a mostly harmless enemy that does nothing other than blind you and send you flying if you run into it. If you ring the bell 3 times, it applies the overtuned effect, which kills you if you run into a bell once again. This effect is temporary, however, and disappears after about a minute. The major inconvenience about Bell is that if one player rings it, it blinds every single player the same way. One issue I really have with Bell is that I don't think it's very fun or fair at all with the way it handles teammates, especially considering how some selfish players enjoy ringing the bell on purpose just to mess with their teammates. However, assuming you have actually good friends and not the worst people of all time, which are public lobbies, God save you if you have public lobbies, you should be able to avoid it just fine. It also has some additional helpful properties, such as being able to play some V-Bucks if you run into it, and collecting nearby gifts. Selecting a permanent bell also gives you an exclusive upgrade that I'll talk later down in this walkthrough. Springer is a chess piece that jumps around the map attempting to crush you, leaving behind shockwaves. This can catch you by surprise a few times if you're not paying attention, but as long as you're paying attention to the indicator it leaves before landing, you'll be pretty much safe. Its shockwave can also take you by surprise due to it having a long range and may push you into an enemy that can get you killed. Again though, it's mostly dealt with easily by common sense and just steering clear of them while you platform. However, the biggest threat Springer usually actually serves is you accidentally running into it and bonking. This happens way more often than I'd like to admit. Husk is a pretty simple enemy, but it's also incredibly lethal due to how it's designed. It spawns behind you and after a few seconds it begins to follow you, copying your exact same moveset. If you run into it, you're dead instantly. This enemy is one of the biggest noob stompers since you need to throw out backtracking out of your movement and instead find other ways to reroute. The worst part? Progression events and curses can make Husk even worse, making it taller, closer, spawn in random distances relative to you, and even double or triple it. Absolutely avoid picking Husk until late game. I know many people don't find that many issues with Husk, but I honestly think having a permanent Husk is an incredible drag due to its progression events and how much worse it makes the early game. Or you could pick Husk because you're feeling lonely and need a friend. It's always open to giving you a big hug. Baby is a very simple enemy. It dashes towards you after giving you a warning. That's literally it. It's definitely one of the more dangerous enemies due to it directly seeking you out and being harder to avoid due to its size, but with good platforming skill, you should be able to avoid 1 or 2 babies pretty well. It only becomes a handful once you're surrounded by a large number of babies and other enemies. Stay on the move and make sure you're not the one being targeted. Baby has some curses that increase its difficult from inconvenient to pretty dangerous, such as Tantrum and Pacifier, but as long as you avoid these curses early game, you should be alright. ICBM is another very simple enemy. It's a missile that tracks your movement for a period of time and then explodes in a radius. Stay out of the blast and just keep moving and you'll be alright. However, you should be wary of other players when an ICBM is targeting them, since their ICBM can accidentally get you killed. Though it happens to me so often, I would generally not be surprised if people are doing this to me on purpose. Please stop. Overall, many early game enemies are very simple to understand, but avoiding them is easier said than done due to the lack of movement. With some lack of practice, you should be able to get through your first few levels just fine. Just be wary of enemies that are able to pass through the floor, such as Ma and Baby, and everything else should be relatively easy to avoid. For this guide, I'm going to assume you're playing on party mode, due to that being one of the most popular and honestly more fun version of the game. If you're playing on Party Plus, which is somehow even more common, or a mode less than Party, don't worry about it too much. This advice still applies, and I'll show on screen the difference in strategy in case you need to do something different for those. Speaking of party modes, I highly recommend you cap your player count to however people you're going to play with. If you're playing with a group of 8 or less, set the party to a party lobby rather than Party Plus. This is due to the fact that on Party Plus, you have to select essentially double the enemies, meaning that the levels will be far harder with less players, rather than it being balanced around 20 players. You also get more buffs later game as party, but we are not there yet. This also happens in solo and duo, where you get even more buffs, as well as an exclusive upgrade called Adrenaline, which buffs your movement speed by about 20%. It's up to you whether you'd want a smaller group of stronger players, or a larger, weaker group that can recover from mistakes easier. Because, don't forget, only one player needs to get in the beacon to advance to the next level. I personally prefer Party Plus due to the fact that I like playing with my subscribers. Shameless plug for the video by the way, please subscribe. From level 4, your first set of curses appear, now happening each time you select enemies. After this, they begin to appear on even numbered levels, giving you a set of 3 debuffs that you can pick from to make the game more difficult for yourself. You also get 3 rerolls, with 1 refreshing every 7 levels. I'd recommend avoiding rerolling as much as possible to hold onto these, because the more curses you pick, the harder the remaining selections become. You should also hold on to enemy rerolls as well, due to the fact that the more easy enemies you stack, the more harder enemies fill up the selection. In early game, there isn't that big of a curse and enemy pool, due to the fact that certain curses and enemies require a specific level or another enemy being selected. The safest thing to usually do is to stack bells, springers and marts. They can't do much to hurt you without needing a curse to back it up, which can usually safely be avoided. Some curses I'd advise selecting early game are Random Spawn and Low Gravity. Random Spawn is quite literally a buff, reducing the amount of times you'll accidentally bump into other players and allowing you to collect gifts much more efficiently. However, keep in mind that enemies will now also spawn in random positions, meaning that you might be caught off guard if you aren't careful. On top of that, you may also spawn near a trip mine, so it's very likely that you could accidentally run into one if you don't take a second or two to look around. Enemies like Husk do not spawn until you've stepped from where you spawned or after 30 seconds, allowing you to get a good bit of time to get your bearings. Other enemies are still able to attack you, however, so it's still best to get moving as soon as you can. Low Gravity is quite the upgrade for many classes. Your jumps are higher and you take longer to fall. Nice, right? However, this does come with the drawback of affecting a few classes' gift collection early game. For example, Diver. It just barely affects their dive height, meaning that they don't reach all the gifts below them when they dive. I'll get back to class specific things later on in the video, but it's something you need to keep in mind. Absolutely avoid curses like Concussion. One accidental walk into a bell, and for the next 7 seconds you're a walking target if you're not already dead. Weaker jump pads is a case by case basis, but the general consensus I have is to avoid it unless you absolutely have to pick it because of the worst curses being in the selection. Bigger Blast is a curse that sounds horrible on paper, but as long as you stay clear of other players, getting the first stack of it isn't that bad if you're forced to pick it up. However, never, ever get the second stack of Bigger Blast. Heed my warning or you will regret it. I'd also heavily advise against getting scattered gifts as well. While it's by technicality a free curse, it's a bit of a noob trap. Oh, but the gifts are just moved a bit. That's not that bad, you may be saying. Unfortunately, it makes gift collection even more tedious, because it usually leaves some gifts uncollected while you're running to collect them, due to them being partially offset outside of your hitbox. This is the same thing with trip mines, making it harder for you to weave past them consistently. Not the worst thing in the world, but avoid it if you can. Speaking of trip mines, from level 5 and above, trip mines begin to spawn too. These naturally generating objects spawn in places where gifts usually would be. These are particularly potent, potentially even worse than the enemies, due to the fact that unless you've stocked up on defuse kits, in early game they're almost always an insta-kill, usually with little to no reaction time if you've built up a lot of momentum. It is absolutely vital that you keep your eyes on the road while avoiding enemies, or you're going to get a very unfortunate end to your run. Trust me, it happens to the best of us. If as a new player, you're seriously having trouble with trip mines, I'd recommend trying the game on casual mode. This game mode removes trip mines and allows you to build the fundamentals without the worry of getting one shot by them as a new player. There isn't a massive difference between these game modes, outside of a few enemies being noticeably easier, the economy being far more forgiving, and the removal of trip mines. However, I highly recommend that you don't get too comfortable on casual, or you're going to get a very rude awakening when you attempt the achievements that I list later down in this video. Trust me, use casual as more of a practice and hangout zone, and use standard when you actually want to complete stuff legitimately. You will feel far more accomplished with yourself. After a few more levels, you're going to be picking up your first few upgrades. The first major choice you're going to need to make in your run, despite how painful it may be, is to prioritize your eco over movement. Yes, I know, don't boo me, but you need to listen to me. The first upgrade you need to buy, no matter what, is Paycheck. Even if Business License looks tempting, if you do the maths, in early game it is far more efficient due to the flat amount of money you get compared to needing to collect in levels where there aren't that many gifts. For example, if a level has 100 gifts and you got Paycheck, you will get about 80 of those gifts, with about 100 to 200 extra due to the upgrade. However, with Business License, another popular economy upgrade, it only gives a 25% increase per stack. As a result, you'd only get about 50 to 100 more gifts, and that's even if you end up collecting enough gifts before collapse. All you need to do with Paycheck is to make sure you and your friends get to the beacon as soon as you've collected as much gifts as possible, and you'll be on smooth sailing early game. While you may be concerned due to being under-equipped to deal with enemies in the first few levels, there is a very simple solution. A few of you guys may call it cheesing or whatever, but to me, it's an intentional game feature. Just stack easier enemies until you hit their stack limit. Bells, Marts, Springers and ICBMs, preferably in that order. This way you don't really have to actually pick any difficulty until about level 8, where you'll have to pick Telefragger. Ew. But I'll get back to discussing enemies and specific curses you should be picking from there after we talk about some upgrades. During the next few upgrade intermissions, you should still be prioritizing eco, while getting upgrades that are quite obvious. I'll go into further detail in upgrades later down in the video, but for now you need to prioritize getting another Paycheck, a Business License and a medal. Another Paycheck is obvious, as I've explained why before, but a Business License is absolutely vital for getting more upgrades. A Business License increases your gift yield by 25%, increasing the amount of money you make by a massive margin. If you're confused on what medal is or how it works, allow me to explain it to you. Medal is an upgrade added in patch 5 that essentially allows you to collect a medal every odd or so levels for a payout of golden gifts in return. When you pick up the medal after finding it on the map at collapse, It nerfs you by removing your class specific ability and giving you an extra jump in return during that match. Your job once you've gotten the medal is to book it to the beacon as fast as possible. If you make it to the beacon, you get a payout of golden gifts, but that's not all. During intermission, you will gain the option to pick a medal curse, which is a curated selection of harder curses that will give you money upon selecting them. I recommend passing on actually getting a medal curse the first time you can, which is around level 6 until about level 8, due to the fact that you can get curses that can actually help your eco, such as lap 2 or nothing, while also getting a free medal payout out of it. Ironically, casual economy is so good that you don't even need to bother doing this more than once as long as you use altars, which I'll explain later, but I still think it's good practice to get one of these anyways. Lap 2 increases gift yield and slows collapse time, but at the cost of not opening beacon until either the entire map is destroyed or until at least 40% of gifts are collected. This also nerfs altar multipliers, but I'll get to explaining that mechanic later. Nothing is a curse that's pretty much a noob trap on paper, but is actually really helpful once you understand the specifics of what it does. It makes shops 15% cheaper at the cost of adding one additional random enemy every 5 levels, counting from level 5. So, if you get nothing at level 8 and then get to level 18, you will get 2 random enemies in your round. This continually stacks until it reaches the limit of 8 total random enemies. If you think you're good enough to handle more enemies, I'd advise picking nothing, as that is far more time efficient. However, if you want to take your time and just collect as many gifts as possible and are not in a rush, feel free to pick lap 2. Picking either is fine, but just don't pick both in casual unless you have a death wish. Picking it in standard is possible, but I just don't think it's a good idea for late game. I'll go into more detail with specific curse selections later, but if you're a new player and you just want to try and get a new personal best rather than go for specific things, I'd advise just avoiding these 2 curses. Come back after watching the rest of this video and you'll see what I mean. When you get to the next shop, you'll need to get Grace Wings and Ice Skates. These 2 upgrades are incredibly vital to get due to Grace Wings completely unlocking air control while in the air, and Ice Skates allowing you to run pretty much just like normal on ice. Not having both of these can make future levels feel incredibly painful, so I'd advise getting these as soon as possible. I would also advise getting Pocket Belt and Swiftness Rings. Ninja Belt too, but I'll explain why it's so important in a later section of the video. For the next few levels, you're essentially going to need to rinse and repeat what I've taught you here so far. So, let's move on for now to another mechanic, altars. Oh boy, this one's a doozy. Altars are naturally generating structures in Nullscape that produce different effects with their own benefits and drawbacks. These can either save your runs or completely ruin them, depending on how and when you use them. These altars are single use and only one of each altar type can spawn on levels, with the exception of 2, but I'll get into that in a bit. From level 3, the Altar of Chance spawns. This altar has many effects, some being negative and some being positive. This altar will choose 50-50 between either a positive effect or a negative effect. You will want to constantly roll the Altar of Chance early game due to it being able to give you a much needed boost to your eco at the start of your Nullscape run. The Altar of Chance has varying effects, starting with the positive. It can increase gold yield either by 0.5 times or by 0.75 times. It can revive one random player in the lobby. It gives one random player in the lobby a shield. This can stack with other shields. Flesh Be Gone kills one flesh and cleanses all flesh tiles. And finally, no trip mines. This one's effect is quite obvious. For the negative effects the Altar of Chance can roll, you have the altar deducting 10% of the server's gold gifts, capping at 5,000, Mart Apocalypse, which spawns 6 temporary marts at random places, It's Here, which just spawns a giant Springer, Mart and Springer just buffs Mart and Springer. I think this one was a little obvious, but it might confuse people into thinking that it just spawns one of them. 2 random enemies spawns, well, 2 random enemies. 40 to 60% less jump pads and sea mines. Neither of these affect tile generation. And Oops or Flesh, which gives the tile set that has the altar the flesh effect and spawns a flesh. Curses such as High Roller intensify these effects, and Tweaked Odds guarantees a positive and negative effect, but nerfs a lot of the better effects of the altar. I usually pick High Roller since 99% of Nullscape players chicken out before they get 1.2 times golden gift yield. The next altar you're going to be getting very familiar with is the Altar of Purgatory. This altar, once activated, adds temporary enemies to the level, and either increases gift yield by 2 times or revives players. If you're feeling brave enough, you should also use this altar as often as possible to increase the maximum amount of golden gifts you can gain during the round. The greed variant of the altar disables after reaching 50% of gifts, so activate this altar as close to 50% gifts as possible to prevent overwhelming yourself while also securing the increase in yield. I do not recommend purging very often if you're very new to the game, but if you are feeling more brave, attempt to purge every time you see the altar. With the lap 2 curse activated, the multiplier of the altar is reduced to 1.33 times rather than 2 times, but it's mostly invalidated by gifts being easier to collect at collapse due to collapse being slower in lap 2. The revive variant of the purgatory altar revives all players at the middle spawn point, regardless of random spawn being activated. From what I can tell, it also spawns far more enemies, so revived players will need to get their bearings as soon as possible and attempt to contribute to the team. I do not recommend revive altering unless you are at 20% or less players left alive. The Altar of Passage is an altar that spawns tiles with golden gifts. Pretty simple, it's free money. Always activate it whenever you see it. However, keep in mind it enrages the guardian enemy, making it much more difficult to deal with. However, you should be able to make a good bit of money off it. The Altar of Protection is an altar that gives you a shield in exchange for golden gifts, as long as you're in the bubble that it temporarily spawns. The price of the altar increases the more players are in the lobby and the higher the level the players are on. This altar begins to appear from level 8, but with the Drowned Aegis upgrade, it will be guaranteed to spawn every single time. Only ever use this altar in emergencies. It is a waste of money majority of the time, and you're better off saving it if you're not trying to clutch. The Altar of Chaos is an altar that provides literally no benefit, but changes the next shop's options to a random curse, a random enemy, a divine curse, or a greater curse. Basically, if you get unlucky, your run is basically dead because you got nuclear bombed. Avoid this altar at all costs, unless you want to mess around, then have fun. The Altar of Purification is an altar that trades a curse for an enemy and takes a large chunk of your money off it. You do not need the required amount of money to actually use this altar, but it'll put you in debt. Only ever use this altar to purify curses that are actively harming your run, such as Lap 2, Nothing, and Mars Slide. Oh my god, Mars Slide, I'll get back to you. After activating this altar, it does not appear again for the next 8 levels. I'll put up a list on the screen now of the priority of which curses are removed. Thank you Nullscape Wiki, because I did not want to go out and check all of this. The enemies that it adds seems to be completely random. Sometimes you can get a bell after purifying Nothing, and other times you can get a Voidbound Guardian from purifying Lap 2. This is why you pay attention to whether you absolutely need it or not. Last but not least, we have the Altar of Echo. This altar is going to be your best friend throughout this run, giving you a variety of effects depending on what altar was previously selected. It pretty much just repeats the effects of most altars, some being better than others. With the Altar of Purgatory, it does the exact same effect of increasing gift yield, with the added benefit of it having a far more lenient gift limit. You can alter Purgatory using the Echo altar whenever you like, as long as the beacon isn't open. This makes it meta to double purge as often as you can, as by the time the enemies begin to overwhelm you, the beacon is already open. However, you don't always have to double purge. Gauge how well you are doing in a round. Using the Echo Purge altar always uses the greed form, whether you've revived or not. Echoing the Altar of Chance simply just rolls another chance altar. I like spamming echo chances because gambling is fun. For the sake of legality, I do not support kids gambling. Don't do that. Echoing the Altar of Passage gives you a gift payout as long as you do it before collapse. You gain more golden gifts with each level. Echoing the Altar of Protection gives the player who activated it a free shield. A no-brainer to activate if you already used your money on an Altar of Protection. For the Altar of Chaos and the Altar of Purification, it simply ignores them both, and instead selects the previous altar used. With altars out of the way, another important mechanic within your runs that you're going to be coming across throughout the game are progression events. Progression events are changes to the game that periodically affect your run every few levels, whether it be changes to enemies, map generations, or adding entirely new mechanics. These progression events are usually quite inconsequential to your run unless you've made certain choices in your run, but I'll go through a few in order of the levels they appear. Thank God the actual Nullscape wiki has these, otherwise I would have had to go back in my footage and look for every single one. At level 5, trip mines begin to appear in the place of some gifts. I've already explained what trip mines are and what they do, but this gives you a buffer period to know when to look out for them. You should also keep in mind that the gift count scaling also stays consistent, so you'll still have time to collect the same number of gifts. At levels 6, 12, 18, 24 and 30, mods increase in size and have a larger size gap. Keep in mind all the enemy based progression events will still happen whether you have the permanent enemy required for it or not. It just won't inform you, so it's good to memorize these to know when to keep an eye out for danger. At level 8, ice tiles begin to spawn. These things are actual torture to work on without the ice skates upgrade, so buy grey swings first and then ice skates as soon as you possibly can to avoid the worst of this tile, due to the fact that enemies become incredibly difficult to avoid without both of these upgrades on these tiles. However, all the generation change throughout progression events isn't all negative. From level 10, grind rails stop spawning, which allows you to hitch a ride on them to travel across the map and build up speed. This is usually a lifesaver for when you need to stall collapse for the beacon in lap 2 in last Robloxian standing, and is generally helpful for most classes. If you run into them often and don't enjoy their benefit, you can just simply turn off grind rails in settings with the jump to use grind rails feature. As well as grind rail spawning, sea mines also now spawn. If you don't know what a sea mine is in Nullscape, it's pretty hard to miss. Giant floating mines that blow up after about a second if you run into its kill radius, otherwise knocking you away from it if you're not close enough for it to kill you. These mines are usually harmless, but can be deadly if you accidentally bump into them, due to the fact that they immediately explode without a wind up. The other danger it poses is PvP. Yes, somebody else can activate the sea mine and it can either kill you or knock you away, depending on how close you are to the explosion radius. I don't think this is honestly a very fair mechanic, and I genuinely think being able to PvP players with sea mines should be removed from the game. They removed the trip nuke curse from standard and made Sigil client-sided due to people complaining about the PvP, so I don't really see why this is any different. But I'll save my complaints about that for later down the video. For now, you might as well use the sea mine's knockback for an advantage by using it for a boost while making sure to stay outside of its kill radius. This can get you out of a lot of bad situations, and with curses such as Barotrauma, it can become even better at boosting you across areas. Just make sure to be very wary of other players. At level 10, 25 and every 25 levels after that, the number of husks will increase by 1 for every husk stack. This is why I say not to get a permanent husk until after level 25, because the amount that snowballs off a single permanent husk will make you instantly regret that choice, especially with curses such as Conga Line. Don't forget, if you use the Art of Purgatory, this progression event still applies. At levels 14 and 28, the enemy flesh gains further range. I'll explain this mechanic in the dedicated enemies section, but its range at which it can infect tiles and therefore disable your moves increase. This stacks with the Bloodier Meat curse. At levels 16 and 32, more ICBMs appear, essentially adding one more ICBM to its stack. The same thing happens at level 20 and 40 for Springers. This is mostly inconsequential though, as you usually only die to ICBM through PvP and Springers are easy to deal with. At level 18, high-rise tiles begin to spawn. These tiles are massive towers that give you one extra jump and reduces gravity, allowing you to climb them. These towers are pretty hard to grab gifts on, especially when targeted by enemies, so try your best to collect as much as possible from them early game to prevent getting overwhelmed by them. These things can be massive, so prioritizing high-rise tiles should be the utmost importance. Other than that, there isn't much to write home about outside of the chimney being able to burn you like the Scorched Earth curse and give you that effect for a short amount of time. And for the final progression event that's relevant to this video, level 25. From now, you have to pick one curse every single level. This sounds pretty bad, but as long as you've stocked up on your rerolls and made smart curse choices previously, you should be able to select from a pretty chill range of curses. With that said, that should be all the basic mechanics you need to know to get through early and mid game in Nullscape. That was really long, so thank you all for actually bearing with me in walking through that. If you're enjoying this video so far, just don't forget to subscribe. Let's take a short break from going over the gameplay for a bit and talk about something that I think far more of you are itching for my opinion on. Nullscape has a variety of classes to choose from that helps you shape your gameplay in the style you'd enjoy the game the most. A lot of these vary heavily in terms of speed, gift collection and survivability, with other classes being either a mix of these three or challenge classes. Majority of these classes benefit heavily from certain upgrades that gives them additional exclusive abilities and enhancements tailored to their classes. The first class I'm going to discuss in this section, and the class you start with, Diver, is quite simple on paper. I've already explained its mechanics, but as a quick reminder, you press your ability button to dive. You can jump out of your dive for a small extra bit of distance and speed at the cost of killing your momentum. If you hold forward during the dive, you'll gain additional forward momentum instead. If you land on the ground while diving, you'll slide forward until your momentum runs out or unless you jump out of your dive. If you go down a slope, you will gain momentum down it. This doesn't really have any practical use from what I know though, and usually just gets you killed if you don't jump out of it in time due to slipping off from the momentum not really being able to be controlled. With the Ninja Belt upgrade, you gain access to a powered dive that travels much further and far faster. The powered dive additionally scales with the current momentum when used, meaning that you can reach incredibly high speeds if you chain dives back to back by jumping immediately after diving. I like to call this bunny hopping, and while it's possible with the weaker dive, it isn't really as fast. You can utilize bunny hopping in general to collect gifts super fast with Diver, as you get increased collection radius, making it one of the most gift efficient classes in the game. However, with the low gravity curse, its efficiency is reduced due to the upwards boost you get from dive moving you out of gift collection range. However, with the miniature hourglass upgrade, this is mostly invalidated, as it increases your powered dive's pickup range by 1.25 times. With the Sharktail upgrade, you can convert your horizontal speed mid-dive into vertical, essentially acting as a free extra jump. You can utilize this to recover from falls, climb high rises easier, and traverse terrain that you usually would struggle to reach. This upgrade turns Diver into what I think is personally one of the best classes in the game. Overall, Diver is an all-rounder class that is a great mix of gift collection, survivability, and mobility, due to the fact that it has practically no cooldown except for you needing to touch the ground or a recovery object to dive again. With enough practice, you can take Diver from being a basic class with nothing to write home about into a gift collecting demon that can traverse the entire map with just a few well-timed dives. I love this class personally, and I main it due to its low skill floor and incredibly high skill ceiling. Grappler is the next class that a lot of new players are usually drawn to, and honestly, for good reason. It's one of the few purchasable classes in the game at a price of 1,800 and is relatively cheaper compared to the others. Its main gimmick is its grappling hook that allows you to utilize momentum and build speed to fly across the map. You use your grapple ability by holding down the ability key to aim, and let go to send your grappling hook towards the location that's being aimed at, as long as the indicator isn't red. You can also grapple onto certain enemies, such as Springer, Husk and Bell, though it isn't usually very practical. These controls are a little different on mobile, but it should be relatively the same. While you're grappling, you'll see a stamina bar on your screen. This stamina bar drains depending on how long you are grappling and how far you are from what you're grappling onto. If you run out of stamina, you stop grappling. This means that you need to manage your stamina while in the air to not run out of it and die. You have plenty of it though, so as long as you're smart with how you position yourself, you should be fine. You're able to cancel your grapple simply by pressing the ability key again or by pressing jump. I recommend pressing the jump button due to using the ability key to cancel your grapple will mess you up a lot when you eventually get the Ninja Belt upgrade. You can recover your stamina by staying on the ground and collecting gifts. You can grapple onto objects such as cryo orbs, jump pads, grapple points and grind rails. This is great for recovery from bad plays or falls, making Grappler one of the best classes by far for survivability and movement. With the Ninja Belt upgrade, you can also reel towards any object, increasing your gift collection efficiency and also giving you more ways to traverse the map. The biggest issue however with Grappler is bonking. In patch 4, Grappler could not really bonk, as well as being able to recover stamina from jump pads, making it incredibly overpowered due to how brain dead it felt to use the class. In patch 5, Grappler got some nerfs. with Grappler now being able to bonk and having some stamina ways changed. This drawback basically changes nothing if you are a good Grappler player, but the class takes far more skill now despite how easy it was in patch 4, due to you needing to judge your momentum and distance from objects you can land into. With Shark Tail, if you double tap the ability key after reeling, you will convert your horizontal speed into vertical. This is helpful for redirecting yourself across short distances that grappling would be a waste of time for, but it isn't really as much of a game changer compared to other classes with the upgrade. With the Miniature Hourglass upgrade, it simply buffs your recharge rate by 30%. Overall, Grappler is a class that takes quite a bit of positioning knowledge to use, but excels at survivability and map traversal. However, this comes at the drawback of not being a very efficient gift collection class. Spirit is the cheapest paid class in the game, costing 1,400 trip coins, and gives players the ability to leave their body as a spirit, and come back to their body by pressing the ability button again or by dying in spirit form. In spirit form, you gain a 10% speed boost, a one-time spirit shield throughout the round, and increased jump height. The body you leave behind is immune to damage. These boosted effects stacks with upgrades and things such as lower gravity and advanced gravity coil. Keep in mind that base spirit cannot enter spirit form mid-air. You are essentially untouchable the moment you get grace wings due to the sheer amount of mobility you gain from being able to control where you're moving, and the spirit shield can save you from multiple moments of possible death. You cannot stay in this form forever as it comes with a time limit. The further you are from your body, the faster the time you have in spirit form will drain. Upgrades can mitigate this though. You can slingshot yourself by double pressing the ability key to create a link between yourself and your body in spirit form, jumping into the void or towards a certain direction, and pressing the key again allows you to launch yourself in the opposite direction. The further you are from the body, the further you can sling yourself. This is incredibly helpful for travelling cross map in a short amount of time, and is insanely good for survivability due to you getting 0.75 seconds of iframes using your ability. This means that you're able to ignore damage from practically all hazards, with the exception of Cadence, Void Breaker, Trip Mines, and the Razor Bloom and Oblivion Greater Curses. However, your one-time shield in spirit form allows you to tank a free hit while not on your body, meaning that you're also able to get the benefits of things such as Panic Necklace twice. Keep in mind that your additional shields from upgrades or Altar of Protection do not stack onto your spirit shield, meaning that you can only tank one hit in spirit form. This means that there are times where you can die in spirit form while your main body still has shield. If you hit a bell while overtuned in spirit form, you don't die, you just get knocked away. Keep in mind this does not clear overtune though. You can also get around enemies like Kelowna simply by just entering spirit form if you forget what the number given was. Operator can be a pain due to it counting spirit form as using an ability, so just try not to be in spirit form while it is attacking. With the Ninja Belt upgrade, you're able to teleport your spirit body to where you currently are, possibly saving you from accidentally voiding yourself due to a misplaced body. The Miniature Hourglass upgrade also allows you to put your spirit form in the air, as well as refreshing your jumps when you leave spirit form, meaning that there are moments you can essentially infinitely jump. However, this isn't always practical due to the amount of enemies in late game. It's still worth a shot if you're about to void though. In conclusion, Spirit is a class with many use cases, and is honestly one of the best in the game for survivability due to the amount of shields, iframes and sheer mobility you have. Your gift collection may not be the best, but this is mitigated by being able to collect gifts off collapsing platforms due to being able to safely teleport back. Overall, incredibly solid and great for late game. Charger is a free class that's deceptively simple. You charge straight ahead and you can quick drop, as well as survive one trip mine hit as long as you're charging. With your ult ability, you're able to spawn a platform you can run on for a short period of time, allowing you to cross short gaps without falling through them. You are also able to extend your airtime using this ability. A lot of people seem to instantly write off this class, due to the fact that in early game, it has a horrendously low turn speed, can bonk very easily, has an insane amount of end lag, and even has a 2-second cooldown every single time it's used. However, a lot of people don't seem to understand that Charger is more of an investment class. You have an F tier class at the start of the game, sure, but at endgame, Charger is an absolute beast. The first thing you're going to notice about Charger is how much upgrades fundamentally improve the class. Starting off with swiftness rings, the more of them you buy, the more turning speed you gain per stack. With Helmet, you are no longer stunned if you charge into a solid object, instead launching you upwards. This allows you to floor bunk without any worries outside of getting a short cooldown. Ninja Belt is your first major upgrade when it comes to Charger. Not only do you get the ability to long jump for further distances, but every time you land on the ground during your charge cooldown, you're able to instantly start another charge. This means that essentially with the right timing, that outside of trip mines and occasionally bunking, that you're able to charge as much as you'd like, simply by quick dropping and then quickly pressing charge within a 0.3 second window. You can also now use your jumps while charging and toggle your platform mid-air, which actually refreshes your double jump. This heavily increases your air time, allowing you to travel much further due to the increased amount of time you have to do it. And that's not even all. With Shark Tail, you're able to convert your horizontal momentum to vertical while in the slowing down animation, essentially giving you a super jump due to how fast Charger usually is. Combined with Matrix Tetrahedron and Sports Shoes unlocking your charge turn speed, as well as Miniature Hourglass buffing your cooldowns and alt abilities, you are basically able to completely ubercharge, get it, Charger to be the best class in the game. Insane speed, perfect gift collection due to its passive gift range increase stacked with gift magnet, and perfect survivability due to being able to outrun the enemies. If anybody tells you Charger is the worst class, just show them this video. Hell, simply while just trying to get footage for Charger for the sake of this video, I ended up playing over 60 hours on this class simply because of how much fun it is. There's a reason why you see so many Nullscape players main this class. Overall, Charger is the top dog of classes in this game. Despite having a high skill floor, the skill ceiling is practically limitless, making this class both incredibly fun to play and just the slightest bit overtuned. The Nullscape developers really do know how to make fun playstyles in their game. Glider is a class that was recently introduced in Nullscape's patch 5 update. I say recently because ironically, this video was meant to come out around the update's release date. It's one of the more expensive classes, clocking in at an expensive 2000 trip coins. In all honesty, this class is the one I've had the least playtime on, only about 20 hours due to how recently it came out, so I won't really have as much to say about it. You're free to drop your own Glider main tips in the comments if you have any, and I'll be sure to heart it. Glider allows the player to, you know what, I'm just gonna let you guess this one. By pressing the ability button while in the air, you're able to glide in whichever direction you are currently facing. The main advantage about Glider is its practically instant turn control. Glider early game is also pretty easy, with it having a relatively low skill floor. The main thing about Glider is just maintaining your stamina and making sure you don't run out. Glider's stamina used to be far larger at the start of patch 5, but received a nerf relatively recently. I personally don't think nerfing it was very necessary, but again, I'm not the expert. You can jump to cancel your glider anytime unless you are using the Ninja Belt upgrade, which allows you to convert your jumps into increased horizontal momentum. Ramming into a wall as glider doesn't exactly stun you, but you lose glider time as well as being forced in a certain direction, as well as not being able to glide again. With the helmet upgrade, you lose less time and are able to continue gliding again. Shark Tail increases your collection range and speed, allowing you to recover vertically far better than you did before. Hourglass simply just replenishes your recharge rate, and all speed related upgrades also increases your gliding speed. By spamming Ninja Belt and Shark Tail, you can essentially blast up into the atmosphere and, in certain situations, be even faster than Charger. For the final class of this section of the video, Wanted is an achievement class that you can get if you beat level 25 on standard mode, which, by the end of this guide, you should easily be able to do. It disables many vital upgrades such as shield, but enhances others, mainly movement upgrades. You also get a 10% base movement speed increase. Wanted doesn't really have any abilities outside of a parry that stops all momentum on a very short cooldown. This is mainly used for stopping Kelowna. It's also useful to save yourself from stuff like C-Mine PvP, but mostly isn't really anything to write home about. It's worth using Wanted early game and then switching a class to your preferred class later due to its early game enhancements being better than most other classes, but this class is mainly just a challenge class and easily gets outscaled mid game. Unless you like jumping, because oh boy, you get a lot of those. You get 4 jumps in total with both double jump and pocket bell, and this stacks with metal and the high rise tiles. There's also another class, prisoner, which is just wanted if it wasn't fun. There's some crazy people who unironically use prisoner just to try and do some challenges. I honestly respect it, and if you pull off anything cool with prisoner, feel free to tag me in the video. I'll be sure to check it out. It's unlocked after beating level 25 in Extreme. I was originally going to beat level 25 in Extreme for this video, but then the Nullscape servers soft locked me at level 22, making me unable to complete that goal. If this video does well, I'll do a separate review of Extreme and Chaos modes respectively, so be sure to like the video. Now, let's move on to something a little more fun. There are many upgrades in Nullscape, some incredibly vital to a run, and others being minor conveniences to help you make your run just a little bit easier. In this section of the video, I'll just list off the upgrades in question, how vital they are, and what I think of them. Starting with better jump pads, it's a very useful and cheap upgrade that's worth getting if you have any leftovers from purchasing your eco in early game. Swiftness rings are very useful for classes such as Charger and Glider, and are good for you to get sooner rather than later. If you can't afford it early game, that's okay, just focus on eco. Double jump is self-explanatory. Pocket bell is just another jump at the cost of slightly obscuring your vision, just like bell. Grace wings simply unlocks air movement and is important to get early, as well as ice skates, which allow you to move better on ice. You should also get helmet near the end of early game. Its large price, despite seeming intimidating, can be a lifesaver due to the fact that you'd be able to control where you land. The fuse kit is another vital upgrade that you'd need to buy in standard. It functions by reducing the chance it has for a trip mine to explode. Quite simple and very, very cheap. You'd be a bit dumb to not pick this one up. Paycheck, business license, and medal are ones I've already explained before. Just buy and max them out as soon as you can, and prioritize paycheck early game due to its larger payout there. Fanny pack turns certain tiles golden. If you collect all the golden gifts on them, it'll triple the amount of gold gifts you would usually get with this tile. For example, if you collect 10 gifts on a golden tile with 2 business licenses and double purge, you'll get 110 gifts. This means that you need to prioritize getting fanny pack tiles over regular tiles. It's also a better upgrade to get early game over the second business license if you are forced to pick between the two. Grapple points and trier orbs add helpful little objects to the map that assist you to traverse the map better, as well as giving you your jumps back. These are lifesavers and should be bought after all your eco and basic movement upgrades. Radar is a no-brainer and should be bought after getting ice skates. It comes with a plethora of different upgrades that allow you to see specific things on the map every few seconds, such as enemies, trip mines, altars, cadences, instruments, and players. Never actually get the radar module players upgrade. It makes you lag super hard, and its benefit doesn't really help in larger lobbies anyways. I would love to use this upgrade to prevent PvP, but it needs to be optimized a little more before becoming a viable pick. Last Robloxian standing should be grabbed around level 13, just for extra assurance in case things get a little too close for comfort. It can help you clutch up in bad situations by giving you an extra shield that stacks with previous shields and various buffs. Larger grapple points is a waste of money early game, and shouldn't really be considered until all other upgrades have been bought. This is the same with subspatial barrier. Despite being helpful mid to late game, you probably shouldn't blow thousands of gifts on something you don't really need yet. Advanced Gravity Coil, or as I like to abbreviate it, AGC, is something you should be buying after Pocket Bell and all your economy based upgrades. Incredibly helpful for mid to late game, but isn't extremely useful for early game due to not really needing to get that much height at the start. More altars should be bought at the end of early game so you're able to echo altars more often and make more money. Ninja Bell is an incredibly strong upgrade that practically overhauls every class, so I'd also suggest buying it as soon as possible. After getting Ninja Belt, make sure to save the rest of your money until you can afford Shield. This is absolutely vital for mid to late game due to how much harder the game gets, and you should prioritize getting Shield above everything. Sports Shoes is similar to Shield in the sense of being second on the mid to late game upgrade priority list. It boosts your movement by 40%, stacked with the swiftness rings. It allows you to completely outpace enemies such as Baby and make Voidbound Baby as inconvenient as a regular Baby early game. It also increases control for classes such as Charger, as I previously described. Matrix is third on the priority list and completely removes slippery movement as well as giving you instant acceleration. This is a complete lifesaver from slipping off the stages by accident, as you're completely able to control your movement the way you want. Shark Tail is tied with Matrix on the priority list and is another important movement based upgrade, essentially being the mid to late game equivalent of Ninja Bell. It allows you to convert your horizontal momentum to vertical, which can be a lifesaver from voiding. Miniature Hourglass is also incredibly helpful as it gives each class a unique passive. It's especially vital for classes such as Spirit, Glider, Charger and Diver. Gift Magnet is self-explanatory, always worth picking up every time you can afford it, but it's okay to delay getting a second or third stack for upgrades such as Shark Tail or Hourglass. Panic Necklace gives you a boost when your shield is broken and is incredibly helpful for clutching up. John Aegis gives you a void shield if you buy a shield off the Altar of Protection. This isn't really helpful until late game, so you can avoid it. It's worth getting it at last Robloxian standing just for that extra peace of mind though. The final upgrade of this list, Gift Idol, has 5 max stacks and gives a 1% chance of collecting nearby gifts. The more of these you stack, the stronger the effect is due to its higher chance to be able to collect more gifts. This makes gift collection in late game way faster if you're able to make it that far. However, this comes with the drawback that you need to do a lot of double purging to be able to afford all stacks, as well as getting curses such as nothing. There's also a few exclusive upgrades to modes such as Casual and Solo and Duo, such as Orb and Adrenaline. Orb does nothing other than buff Grappler, and Adrenaline gives you a 20% movement speed increase. These upgrades stack with others. There is one more upgrade I'd mention on this list, but it would be a spoiler for the later levels. For now, let's just move on to enemies. Enemies in Nullscape are literally what the chapter title says. Hostile little things that want to kill you. I don't know why I checked the wiki to try and see if my definition was different, but whatever. Anyways, I'm going to go over every enemy and what you should do against them. For Bell, you don't run into it, just use your brain. If you get overtuned, avoid the Bell at all costs, especially if it has the Mighty Gong curse, or you'll be toast. The same logic applies to Mart. Don't be dumb and run into it. Bigger Mart is a bit of an issue but is negligible late game. For Baby, just don't run into its path and you'll be fine. Be careful of it targeting another player, because it might dash into you while not even targeting you. Voidbound Baby is just Baby on steroids. You might have to use your abilities to dodge faster, but the main issue with it is it overwhelming you while you're busy traversing the terrain and other enemies. If you're struggling too hard with it, I'd advise to just go towards other players and hope it goes for somebody more capable. Probably to somebody like me, because I'm the best at Nullscape. Totally. ICBM is easy to deal with as long as you keep moving. With the Scorched Earth and bigger blast curses, it can become a major inconvenience, so try to avoid them unless you absolutely have to get them. Scorched isn't as bad, being mostly free for most classes, but if easier ones are present, it's fine to get others. Husk is the spawn of Satan and should not be picked under any circumstances early game. It adds far too many annoying curses and adds one curse to the greater curse pool. If you end up adding Husk, you will regret it. I have warned you. Springer is countered by common sense and not getting splattered by it. The main issue with it is blocking off it. Keep your distance and be mindful of where its shockwaves land you. When Operator appears, immediately stop using all your abilities and let go of all your keys. With the Malfunction curse, you need to stop moving 3 times in a row for it to go away. This curse isn't that bad on its own, but can be a handful when under pressure. Flesh disables your abilities if you move onto a flesh tile for a short amount of time. It also slows you down and instantly kills you if you run into a flesh. Treat a flesh like a mart that can debuff you. Keep your distance and ignore flesh tiles unless you have Panic Necklace's debuff shield active. Guardian is the worst designed enemy in this game, and I am so glad they're making changes to it one day to make it less horrible. It shoots a volley of bullets at you, which are usually pretty easy to dodge, but majority of the time when you get hit by it is because of its strays when it's targeting another player. The best thing to do is to always be mindful of where it is in comparison to you. Telefragger. Oh my god. This enemy is genuinely evil and the devs knew what they were doing making this enemy. Telefragger essentially acts like a momentum check, teleporting in front of you after a short warning. you need to either change direction or go up high immediately, or you will lose your shield or worse, die. This enemy mostly capitalizes off other enemies pressuring you, usually catching you off guard. Telefragger curses isn't really that bad on the plus side, which is usually why I start stacking them at around level 8. Basic awareness usually helps a lot against it. Colonna is an enemy that sounds easy, but is mostly annoying due to its oddly long range. Colonna picks a number from 5 to 15 and then attacks once it reaches that number. You counter this enemy by using your ability at that number. The annoying part about this enemy is that unlike its previous version, Cuckoo, which range was 8 to 12, Colonna's is way larger, being 10 possible attack stages rather than 4. I genuinely do hope sometimes the developers address this in an update, because Colonna is infamously annoying to go against in standard sometimes. I still recommend stacking it early game due to its curses not being that bad and its mechanics being easier compared to relatively harder enemies. Its range is shorter in casual mode. Cadence is an enemy you should be getting as soon as it appears. Its gimmick is to collect all its instruments to keep it at bay, or else it'll kill everybody on your team. Quite simple, but can be very stressful for new players. Prioritize collecting its instruments over collecting gifts. Sigil just fires a beam at you. Seriously, what else do you want me to write in the script? I had a whole complaint section about this enemy before, but they recently reworked it to not be able to PvP others. So now it's just mostly pressuring you a bit and that's it. Avoid it if you can pick previous enemies listed. Voidbreaker is an enemy that isn't that difficult on its own, but stacking it is where the issue lies, due to it increasing its rate of attack. Voidbreaker does a Delta Rune stealth minigame where you have to avoid the swords coming into contact with you. Just avoid the swords and you'll be good. Voidbreaker's main curse that make it scary are its 2 mutually exclusive greater curses and its extra carousel curse. As long as you delay Voidbreaker and avoid picking the harder curses, this isn't that bad. Voidbound Guardian is practically a mini-boss, but is ironically easier than base Guardian. It fires slower bullets that leave lasers behind. The main issue with this thing is its mostly visual clutter, as it's quite easy to dodge majority of the time. It's best to not be targeted by it though, due to the sheer amount of pressure it puts on you. Scrapmore is a client-sided enemy that speeds past you and fires lasers at you. If you run into its path, it will instantly kill you if you don't have shield. The lasers are incredibly pressuring and you should absolutely avoid picking this enemy until you absolutely have to late game. You will mostly see this enemy while using the Altar of Purgatory later down the line. Curses are modifiers that can change the game in different ways, whether that's positive or negative. Some curses serve as straight debuffs while others can be helpful, such as random spawn. If I went over every single curse in this video, I would absolutely lose my marbles. This video is incredibly long already and I'd like to get this out before the end of the year. So for now, let me quickfire some curses that I think are actually worth talking about. If you want a full video about me ranking curses, just let me know in the comments and like the video. Now, let's get started. Starting with lap 2, it's a goated curse. It allows you to stack up eco pretty fast, with the drawback of the beacon not being opened until 40% of gifts are collected. If you get to LRS in lap 2, it can be scary, but stalling the beacon until collapse has fully finished is entirely possible through grind rails and grapple pads. If the entire map is destroyed, the beacon will open anyways in lap 2. This curse is even more helpful when picked with the inverse destruction greater curse. Nothing is a great curse for building economy, but comes with the drawback of spawning enemies every 5 levels. This can leave you in situations where you could be unlucky enough to get Scrapmore incredibly early, but this doesn't usually happen very often, so I'd suggest getting this curse if you're an experienced player. Savouring Ring is a noob trap, seeming like free money for a slight challenge, but is generally horrendous in the late game due to the fact that it barely gives you any gift yield and it can spawn over 5 enemies. Absolutely not worth it unless you're truly greedy. Jackpot is a curse that a lot of people are afraid of for some reason, but it honestly isn't that bad unless you are on extreme mode. What's the worst that can happen? All I can hear is hitting it big. Borrow Trauma is an incredibly useful curse and does give you the Run Greater curse, but both of them are pretty free. Just be careful of PvP. Absolutely avoid Trip Mine curses unless you have to get them, due to how large of an impact they have on your runs. Trust me, you don't want to be the guy constantly dying to trip mines. Fragile Gifts and Beacon Mirage are super annoying, and you probably shouldn't get them until late game. Curses such as Burr the Husk are actually a buff due to it actually giving you breathing room from how close the husk is to you. Don't ever get any other husk curse unless you absolutely have to. Bell curses are incredibly free, with Mighty Gong and More Ringing being a bit annoying. I wouldn't really get them unless you're fine with Bell constantly annoying you. Mart Slide gets talked about like it's King Von, but honestly, if you think you can handle dodging Marts and maintaining your speed, Mart Slide is pretty fine, but I would rather recommend you just don't get it. Greater curses are additional modifiers that completely change a mechanic of the game, whether that be turning the void into the floor is lava challenge or just reversing the way the level is destroyed. Since there aren't as many greater curses, I'll just quickly go over them. Void implosions are pretty annoying but are mostly inconsequential as long as you have a subspatial barrier. Inverse destruction, as previously described, is mostly free, and run doesn't really change a lot other than making sea mice a little more annoying to use for distance. Razor Bloom is a bit more of a handful but can easily be mitigated by jumping on a pad or a grapple point. Malfunction is bad for new players, but once you learn the timing being 20 ticks, 12 ticks, and then 12 ticks again, you won't find it very bad. Tantrum and Bloodier Meat are an absolute headache, due to it buffing both flesh and baby, but are okay as worst case choices in a selection if worse greater curses are present. One less choice, Hollow Towers and Oblivion are the trio of horror, fear, and everything unfair. Out of these, the least worst choice is one less choice, due to the fact that in a recent patch it no longer affects greater curses. Oblivion makes jumping above the void basically a death sentence, meaning that many classes will suffer due to a lack of vertical mobility. Oblivion should be avoided at all costs, but Hollow Towers is possible as a worst case choice. Hollow Towers destroys tiles after enough icy beams hit them, making Gifts collection absolutely horrendous. Blade Bombardment and Ballad of Blades are pretty difficult curses, with Blade Bombardment spawning many swords and being able to backstab you, and with Ballad of Blades having more frequent, weaker attacks. Nullscape has a range of achievements that you can get, some being easy and some being hard. For this section of the video, it's mostly just going to be gameplay focused and explaining how I personally did these things. The first thing I wanted to do for my Nullscape video is essentially get everything a normal player could get in a relatively normal amount of time. Level 50, Voidbound Scarf, Voidbound Fox, and Subspaced Scarf. Now, I have no idea why I thought the average player could pull this off in about a week, but oh my god, I had no idea what the hell I was getting myself into. First of all, the requirement for Voidbound Fox is to have every possible permanent enemy in the standard run. Sounds pretty easy until you realize for new players this takes an insane amount of dedication. This is no longer patch 4 difficulty, due to the Doom and Bloom update essentially doubling the difficulty of the game. You need all your knowledge of Nullscape so far to pull this off, and oh my god. You want to know the worst part? I lost my footage for Voidbound Scarf, so I had to do it twice. You know how painful that is? Thankfully for me though, I managed to recover the footage for my two other runs, for Subspaced Scarf and Voidbound Fox. Voidbound Fox is the same requirement as Voidbound Scarf, just in extreme mode rather than regular gameplay. And when I tell you this genuinely took years off my lifespan, I am not kidding. There is nothing more exhausting than playing extreme mode on Nullscape. I'll explain more in my criticism section, but I do not remotely enjoy playing extreme mode, which is why I didn't do any extreme modes for this video whatsoever outside of achievements. Subspaced Scarf is quote unquote easier, but was also not very enjoyable in my case, due to the fact that it was pure RNG. I died constantly due to the fact that I didn't have as much experience with late game, and the fact that there was no way to speed early game up other than praying you get specific curses early. With Voidbound Scarf, you get through it with skill, but with Subspaced Scarf, you just had to get lucky enough to get every single Sea Mine and Trip Mine curse in one run before late game, which is just as fun as it sounds. At the end of the day though, all of this allowed me to get better at the game, so sit back, relax, and enjoy me suffering getting these cosmetics all for your entertainment. You know, I'd be lying if I said this is where I'd end off this video. Originally, trying to get to level 50 in standard was proving to be far too much for little old me. I was barely level 50, my friends weren't as experienced either, and I was starting to lose hope in that sense of completionism. Until one day, something just snapped inside of me. I had to see what level 50 was like. Obviously, this section is spoilers. If you don't want to get spoiled, I'd suggest skipping to a later section of the video. You have been warned. Are they gone yet? Alright, cool. After weeks, and I mean weeks of grinding, studying mechanics, getting better at the game, I managed to meet the newest boss added to patch 5, Celestial. Celestial is a very interesting boss for many reasons. Imagine a Tuhu boss combined with those Soul Sands fan games where they throw 1 billion attacks at you. Sure, she does give you Blossom, which is basically a nerfed version of patch 4's Real Wings, but you definitely need it. Trying to beat her without Blossom is practically impossible. Now throw in needing to collect all the gifts on the map while she wants you dead, with the best soundtrack you've ever heard in your life in the background. And that's not even all. Just to get to her, to have a single attempt at her fight, you need to activate 5 pylons between levels 35 to 49, with her appearing once you've completed 5 pylons. Pylons are structures that spawn at collapse. You need to activate all of them to progress towards encountering Celestial. The main issue with them is the reality breaks that spawn. Random beams that not only create huge amounts of visual and audio clutter, but they damage you too. You basically have to use the auto protection at these levels if you're prioritizing pylons, and you've better have hope you've purified any curses such as lap 2 or nothing. This is why I don't recommend getting Savory Ring, due to making doing pylons way harder, as it spawns enemies during collapse. And that's not all. Celestial isn't a pushover at all either. Having to do all that work to reach her and dying within the first 20 to 30 seconds is very common, especially if you haven't fought her before. Trying to beat her simply for this video felt almost impossible. Oh, but if I was just beating her, I would have easily just hopped on casual and called it a day. But no, I wanted to go beyond for this video. I wanted to get the Blossom badge in standard, something that 0.001% of Nullscape players even have, simply just for those bragging rights. Every single run to meet her once, just to instantly die, took 2 or 3 hours off my life. But that wouldn't stop me, I just couldn't let it slip past me. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between, please enjoy. I genuinely could not believe I did it. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into almost 2 months. But I did it. I beat Celestial on Standard. I am one of the top 0.001% of Nullscape. I am one of only 1,000 people who got that badge, somebody who only played 200 hours in the game. And that's not even all. I also snagged that Standard 50 badge. And do you want to know the worst part of doing all this? That wasn't the only time I've beaten Celestial. In total, simply just for this video, I've beaten Celestial a total of 16 times, 11 times in casual and 5 times in standard, simply just to get better at fighting her and contribute rather than just getting carried for the video. This took 40 plus attempts. If I just ended it at just beating her once in standard, that would have been incredibly lame, since on my first Celestial standard win, I got PvP'd immediately by somebody else's sea mine. That would have been incredibly lame, and I wanted it to be entertaining. I also wanted to get cool camera angles and include as many people as I could have in the edit. So, if you spot yourself, feel free to drop a comment. With that said, let's move on to hopefully the last section of the video. Look, as much as I've come to love Nullscape, I think it's quite apparent that it is not a perfect game. No video game ever is, and that's okay. That's what feedback and constructive criticism is for. Keep in mind that this entire section is just my opinion and that you are absolutely free to disagree with me here. I am not a game developer and I don't claim to be. For this section, I'm going to just informally go through some things I don't really like about Nullscape, starting with the economy in standard and extreme. I am not really a fan of the current meta revolving around double purging to even get far in levels. I feel like using the Altar of Purgatory shouldn't be as vital to the rounds as it is currently, especially in the early game. It makes the game incredibly unapproachable to new players if they can't afford majority of the upgrades in the game without essentially doubling or tripling the difficulty of the levels practically every single time. This problem is worsened by how horrible early game is, from both a gameplay and movement perspective. There is practically nothing to do. You pick the same easy enemies, you slog around and collect the first few gifts, and you go in the beacon. You get eco upgrades because what else can you do? If you don't, you won't be able to afford the most basic things without having to play catch up for several rounds. Rinse and repeat until mid game. There isn't a lot of variety or freedom in anything you do the second you're playing the game to get to a high level. Sure, you can make the game harder for yourself on purpose, but what's the point of that if you're a new player? I don't personally mind challenging myself as a more experienced player now, but I feel like it's a bit unfair that Timmy Nullscape 2015, who just opened the game for the first time, suddenly has to adapt to all this meta. It's incredibly unapproachable for new players, and I really hope they adapt the game to be easier early game and have a more natural difficulty scaling, rather than suddenly peaking between 12 to 25 and then staying around the same difficulty. Sure, Nullscape's developers are adding a fast track option to skip early game, but I think if you have to add a button to skip early game, it says a lot about how flawed early game in Nullscape is in the first place. Modes like casual feel so fun due to their reduced prices and already having an upgrade like Gracewing unlocked. Going back to standard early game feels like digging your eyes out with a spoon. They should try to solve this problem, not just sidestep it. I really think Nullscape would improve from this issue simply by having a larger enemy and curse pool, as well as having more random events. Mutually exclusive curses and upgrades are a great way to encourage replayability, and making both sides of the curses and upgrades equally viable adds a level of skill expression that fits right at home with what I've come to love about Nullscape. Late game is also relatively guilty of the issue of feeling like a bit of a drag. Sure, pylons mix up the gameplay quite a bit, and they definitely make late game far more fun, but the levels before that just feel like an absolute slog. Once you've seen it, you've seen everything. You don't really feel like you're working towards anything either. You have basically everything except gift idols. You know how every single enemy works. You're not gonna pick a horrible curse on purpose. Double purging is also tiring. It just feels like the same loop again and again, and it pains me to say that as somebody who genuinely adores Nullscape's platforming and enemy design. Except for you, Guardian. I just don't like Guardian, I'm sorry. Another thing I don't like about the way the game's development is being handled is with things such as nerfing classes. Look, I'm all for keeping a balanced experience, like just take a moment to look at my channel, but I feel like things such as the glider nerf were pretty unnecessary. Glider went from a fun class with a high skill ceiling to feeling like Icarus with the way it flew way too close to the developers and then got its wings burnt off. Its stamina is honestly pretty bad now, and it feels like a weird love child of Grappler and Charger due to it being able to be decent at both gift collection and aerial mobility, but at the end of the day it isn't really much to write home about. Glider was really fun before the nerfs due to the amount of momentum and airtime you could build up, but it's insane to me how Charger could have longer time in the air compared to the class, which, you know, the entire point of Glider is, you know, it's meant to be in the sky. This isn't me asking for nerfs on other classes, I'm asking for other classes to be buffed up to the same level as the better classes, having a higher skill expression but still being relatively approachable to new players. I really do hope the next update, stuff like Charger isn't gutted the same way Glider was, because goodness gracious, I've seen like 2 Glider mains in total lately, and that's insane considering how it's the newest class added this update. In addition, I think the world generation in patch 5 has some flaws. It's far too horizontal. Yeah, there's high-rise tiles, but I feel like essentially what is a straight line up isn't really fun either. A mix of new generation with different gimmicks would be a lot more fun and engaging, and I think they should experiment further with things such as biomes, with their own little placements and hazards. The checkerboard tiles are also starting to become a bit overused within their generation. I feel like adding a cosmetic update for you to be able to customize how tiles look, for example making them look the way they did in patch 4, like Minecraft texture packs, could be a really fun way to also customize Nullscape. Would it be a big update that would probably take a lot of development and effort? Yes. Would it be awesome? Yes. Extreme mode in its current state is an incredibly flawed mode that, if planned to be fully supported within development, needs to get some actual reworks. Enemies in this mode are either miserable versions of the original versions or just even easier. Tell me how it's fair I got unlucky enough to get Markpocalypse in an alt of chance and instantly lose a run due to how overpowered Mart is with no counterplay. It isn't fun at all, and enemies like Springer add on to this artificial difficulty due to how easy it is to get strayed by it. It's not hard because it's actually challenging, it just feels like a few buttons were tweaked for them to do 1 billion damage and then they called it a day. If you're gonna make an actually hard mode, make it a mode that actually feels difficult, with its own exclusive curses, not just random bullshit. Different generation, maybe a few exclusive enemies here and there, and some proper enemy AI changes rather than numbers seemingly being tweaked. I haven't really tried Chaos mode properly yet, so I won't be commenting on that. If you do want me to check that mode out, just let me know in the comments. And as for my final suggestion, please add a sandbox mode that allows you to fight enemies you've already unlocked and died to. I want to fight the enemies that are at level 40 and higher again and again. For example, the boss. She's really fun. But I don't want to invest 2 to 3 hours into a run every single time I want to do that. I feel like once you've beaten the Celestial in Standard, you should be able to practice her fight, along with other people who have beaten her. This sandbox mode should also let you experiment with picking any curse or enemy you want and mess around with scrap content, such as Catalyst. I would love for Catalyst to be back in the game again as another endgame enemy once it's gotten a rework. A small thing I'd also like to mention, even if it isn't directly the game's fault, is the spike of toxic activity within the community. I'm probably going to make an entire separate video on this later, since this isn't actually the developer's fault, but holy, a lot of you mid to high levels made getting into Nullscape insufferable for both me and my friends. They're not only obsessed with being the first to the game like it's some sort of competition, they treat lower levels like dirt and try to pressure people to make certain choices, especially when they're not even hosting. So, as a quick side note, if you're looking down on people for just minding their own business, you are insufferable. In conclusion, Nullscape is an incredible game. Probably one of the best games I've played on Roblox in recent memory. I wouldn't be making this insanely long guide and review if I just didn't care about this game. I honestly wish I could talk more about this game, but if I kept going, this video would have been even longer and it wouldn't have come out. Don't worry though, I'm planning to make even more Nullscape content. I probably could have made like 40 slop videos in the almost 2 months I haven't uploaded, but oh my god, so many things happened in that time and I genuinely think I missed out on quite a lot of money, so I have to play catch up. But you guys obviously deserve better, and of course Nullscape deserves better. So make sure to go show this game some love. It's a great game made by talented developers that deserves way more of an audience than what they currently have. I also hope you've appreciated all the extra touches and things I did with this video. You can expect this higher quality of effort within videos going forward, so maybe all this waiting was worth it. You get higher quality slot after all. And of course, thank you all so much for watching this ridiculously long video. If you ended up enjoying watching all the way until the end, that must mean you must have really liked the video. The only thing I ask of you is to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I'd like to make YouTube my career someday, and every like and subscription allows me to make videos you guys want to see. If you want to financially support me and get a shout out at the end of all my videos in the credits, please join my YouTube channel membership. It's only $5 and it helps me out more than you could ever know. If this video does well, I'll make more Nullscape related content just like this one. If you guys would like me to make more deep dives on games I like and explain why I like them to you, just make sure to drop a comment letting me know. Again, thank you to Opera GX for sponsoring this video so I won't go hungry, thank you to all my subscribers and fans for all the support, and I'll see you guys next time. Roll credits.
All alone in the chaotic world, feel the passion.